You know, the more I stare at this album's cover, the more I think it's actually moving. Well, the LSD is kicking in, and it's just in time for this review. Hi people, and hello my Chili con Carnage crew, it's Chili here, the man who produces Iron for My Eyes, and I'm doing a 5-minute review on Monkey3. Welcome to the machine. I gotta call this out right now. Monkey3 is a terrible name, and I don't care what the story is behind it. That being said, the band is far from terrible, and this album is of course no different to their earlier records. My introduction to the band was some years ago through the song Icarus, and its ability to soar into dizzying highs, which was fucking incredible. Unfortunately, it didn't hook me too much to listen to more of their music, and that song stayed on a playlist of awesome long metal songs for years, being played loudly whenever it was up. So when I heard the news that the band Monkey3 had a new album, I mistook them for a punk rock band I followed, and I rushed to play their music. But the mistake was a minor gaffe that led me to this new record. This album was released back in February, so I'm sorry guys for being very late to the party here. Anyway, the first glaring presumption from this record was its title, Welcome to the Machine, taking cues from the Pink Floyd song. So I figured that this is going to be some very proggy stuff, more akin to of course Pink Floyd's sound. Was I mistaken again? Instead I was enveloped by the first song on the album, Ignition, and its hard-hitting riffs that really reminded me of the band Earthless. And a great comparison, as just like Earthless, this album is purely instrumental guitar virtuoso blending with stoner metal at times and traditional prog rock jam pieces. Actually, thinking back on this album, I would say the band have a prominent sound akin to Joe Satriani for a fair bit of this record's runtime. When I was listening to the atmospheric piece Collision and the guitar sweeps, it hails to that kind of sound with its heavy-handed electronic sampling until the guitars change and play their sections in a louder and more furious pace. It's a terrific song really. The band then give you their best semi-melodic Buckethead impression without the alien weaponry styled effects pedals of course. Hey, if you've heard a few of his Pike series, then you know what I'm talking about. Geez, I'm glad I don't do reviews on every Buckethead album because I don't have the time of day for that. After all, we don't have a spare 6 hours for that clucking madness. Look, it's a decent song, but I'll admit that I zoned out a bit during my playthrough when I heard this track. Rackman is the following song, and one that feels like we are venturing into space with elements of space rock keyboard sections that would make Hawkwind's Dave Brock gush with exultation. I must say, I felt that it started strong, but by the time the guitars played around halfway, it loses its sense of wonder and feels a bit robotic with its rhythm section. But maybe that's just my projections to this song, as a backseat driver in particular, I guess. Just an opinion, I guess. Take it as you will. Now, if you are a fan of Pink Floyd, then you simply must listen to the track Collapse, as this one just takes a heavy cues from Pink Floyd's entire back catalogue and interlopes them into the band's own style. The song begins off with the drum fill and guitar riff very familiar to the track Time before eventually leading into echoes, while leading into of course multiple other songs such as Run Like Hell and Shine On You Crazy Diamond. To be completely honest, I forgot this album's namesake and guessed by all the earlier music that this was just a coincidence the album was named after, especially considering that the rest of the tracks just weren't akin to Pink Floyd. But there is so much for these musicians to cover in nearly 13 minutes, and they do it with their own flair that is just mystifying. I must admit the outro is not extremely familiar to me and might be an original composition, but if you know what song they are doing then please mention it below. For all the music on offer, which is at a 46-minute affair, it does feel amazing in sections and yet tedious in others. This style of music is something that I love, but one of the issues with long prog rock pieces is keeping it fresh and interesting during its runtime. Otherwise, you got people just checking their watches during a set list, and that is a bad sign. When the band are in their element, they sound immaculate, especially in the rhythm sections, but perhaps its faults lie with the similarities of Joe Satriani, a style I found that can be very melodically wistful at times, but it does seem to be a very strict time schedule. It's too rigid in sections, and especially when compared to their counterparts Earthless, whose songs feel organic and almost venture into freeform time signatures during the guitar solos, you can just see the major differences. I think Monkey3 represent a different style within this genre, and of course if you like the elements of Earthless, then you should definitely check this band out. Overall, I'll give this album a score of 6.5 million Jullies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Ignition, Collision and Collapse. Despite my opinions on what I would consider are the band's flaws, these are my views only, and purely subjective. You may not agree with them, and you have, of course, what you want to say about it. But I'll admit, while this album didn't quite hit the right notes for me, it is still an intrinsically beautiful record with a deep, resounding mood to it. I may not enjoy it as much as you, but I would say it's well worth a listen, and of course if you haven't done so already, make sure to check it out. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always people, you have a great day and stay spicy.